Okay, I can guarantee that watching this video you'll get 80% healthier compared to most of the people out there. And if you put in a little bit of the work from the last tips of the video, you'll get up to 95%. Because it's not that hard when majority of people order Big Smoke, right? So I'm Amon. In 2022 I was 250 pounds and I lost 75 pounds since then. And I hope I don't find that again. Now with the tips in this video, I'm a no, and that's not going to happen. So I'm just going to show you some of the ways that you can become healthier than basically everyone else around you, than the average man. And once you're healthier than the average man, then it's just kind of like a cycle. You become healthier and healthier. Okay, so that's 5 stages to becoming healthy. First one is cut out sugar. Everyone has way too much sugar in their diets. The second stage is eating less and intermittent fasting. The third stage, cut out seed oils and also just the foods that use them. The fourth stage is making foods like eggs, meat, raw dairy, honey, stuff like that. Making that the main part of your diet. And the fifth stage is making those same foods the only part of your diet. So instead of having mainly those foods, but then you have some sort of junk food here and there, or some carbs from alternate sources like grains, stuff like that. Having those things in, that's stage 4. But having everything cut out and only those high nutritious foods as part of your diet, that's stage 5. Those are basically the healthiest people. Okay, so the first step is to cut out sugar, right? So why should you cut out sugar? What's actually the bad part of it, and that's keeping you unhealthy? So here's the thing, when you eat sugar, you get an insulin spike, right? That's normal, but when you eat a lot of sugar or carbs, it basically spikes your insulin, and that insulin spike, it blocks a signal from something called leptin. Leptin is a signal to our body that we're full and that we've eaten enough. And most people, even some dogs, they don't have that signal, which is why dogs just eat and eat. But also some people have the same thing as well. Okay, so sugar just makes us only want to eat more, right? Well, not exactly, but that insulin spike also turns the extra energy that we have into fat. So sugar equals insulin spike equals wanting to eat more, and wanting to eat more equals gaining more fat. But then also insulin spike equals storing more food as fat. If you cut out sugar, you'll naturally start to lose a little bit of weight. You'll start feeling full with the foods that you eat, so you're naturally gonna lose all that extra weight. And on top of that, when you feel full with the foods that you eat, you'll naturally be, steered to eating healthier foods, especially ones that don't contain sugar. And just one misconception to clear up, most people think that, low fat is better, but fat does not have anything to do with you actually having fat. Fat is necessary for you. There's essential fats and essential proteins, but there's not essential carbs. So you can cut out carbs and you won't have any major side effects, unless you miss critical things like electrolytes, salt, things like that. So 2, eating less and intermittent fasting. So in Canada, I see obese people, right, sometimes, but when I travel to the US, I see so many more obese people. Every third person or every second person, honestly, is an obese person. And why? It's because they're eating too much and they're not actually burning off those calories. But there is also another part about that, right? But those will be covered by you're not eating sugar and not eating seed oils, things like that. But I see so many obese people in the US, and majority of them are eating too much. That's why, right? Food is food is their comfort. Whenever they're stressed, they eat, right? They're also probably eating sugar, seed oils, which is also a factor. So fasting will help a lot, especially if you fast for more than 24 hours, you get into a stage called autophagy, where your body starts to actually prepare some of the cells, and basically this is kind of like a recycle bin, right? There's these dead cells all over your body, but it's not really taken care of unless you go into autophagy. When you go into autophagy, your body starts to clear all of that up. So 24-hour fasts are not really feasible for most people, especially when you start off. When I started off, I did a reverse fast kind of, where eat in the morning and then fast and then eat at night. But what you should probably do, which is what I ended up doing later, is not eat in the morning and then eat for a small amount of time in the middle of the day and then not eat at night. And then I ended up shortening it, so I before it was from 8 a.m. and then I stopped eating at around maybe 4, and then I shortened it, so I would start eating at maybe 11 and then finish at 5, and then I shortened it again. At that point, it was just a point in time instead of a range of time, so a point in time, so not eat anything up until 4, and then from 4 I just eat, and then that's my dinner. So just intermittent fasting and cutting out sugar lost me 30 pounds. And then the rest was from working out and also implementing the next steps. So just those 2 small, simple things can lose you a lot of your weight without even having to put in the effort to, workout. Now third, to cut out seed oils and avoid the foods that have them. I've done a video on seed oils, and studies show that like a high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is associated with a 70% increase in cardiovascular mortality. On top of that, these seed oils have acids inside of them, and just the foods that contain them, most of them contain this acid called linoleic acid, which basically puts you into hibernation mode and helps you gain weight. It's found in the foods that, bears eat when they want to hibernate, so like fish, nuts, seeds, things like that. That's the majority of the diet bears when they are about to go into hibernation. So they're not bad foods necessarily, but they're not the best if you want the best function, and you need to make sure that you have a good omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, right? Now tracking your foods and stuff, that's a good way to do it, and track every calorie, every gram you eat. But the problem with that is probably a little bit too much when you start out. So the main thing you should just do is just cut out seed oils, and that's the majority of the problem solved. So those are basically the problems that like seed oils have, but then the problems with the foods that have them, most of them are heavily processed, and it's just better that you stay away. Now here is somewhat hard, right? But if you just follow these like first two steps and then try to get this third step down, that's at least like 85% of the way to being as healthy as possible. So yeah, this is like 85% of the way, but there's a lot more benefits with the rest of the 15%. It's the same thing like making money or like anything else in life, right? 80% of the way is going to be somewhat easy, right? But the last 20%, that's going to be the hardest work, but that's going to get you 80% of the results, right? The 80-20 rule. And you also have to have sacrifices in order to get towards your goal. If you want to have you have to change your goal in order to make what you sacrifice make sense, right? So if your goal is just to be healthy, then you can stop at stage 3 and that's it. You don't have to do anything else, but the motivation that they have to get to stage 3 is going to be very little. If you want to have your goal at stage 5 and have abs and everything like that, then your motivation is going to be a lot higher, and stage 3 is going to have to be a necessity in order to get to stage 5 or wherever you want to go. So if you just want to be healthy, just stop here. Don't watch the rest of the video, but if you want to be as healthy as possible and achieve the best function that you can from your body, then you can go further. But if that's not a priority for you, which that makes sense in some scenarios, then just don't watch further. And then the fourth stage, making your diet mainly nutritious foods, right? So what is a nutritious food, right? It's not cereals that say, hey, 5 grams of protein, right? It's not the yogurt that says low fat, right? But when you look at the label, it says, like 80 grams of sugar in like a small little tub, which is way too much. What it is natural one ingredient foods, right? Where there are no ingredients in that food, right? The ingredient in that food is the food. So basically just eating ingredients, solo ingredients, right? Instead of eating like chicken Alfredo pasta, instead cut down those steps, right? Make it just rice and chicken, right? So that's 2 ingredients versus maybe possibly 15 or 20. And in those, right, you don't know what's inside of those ingredients sometimes. Like inside pasta, you don't know exactly what they use to process it. You don't know how they use the seed oil, things like that. But with rice, you know how they process it, right? It's just rice. That's it. You process it. That means one of the main staples of this stage is eggs, meat, honey, dairy, and those are the majority of the things that make up a part of this. But then when you look at beef has 40,000 ingredients inside of it, and blueberries, I think they have 80 or something like that, right? But those, they're not really called ingredients, they're called the components. So that's the chemical makeup of the actual food, right? So you make this a main part of your diet. So you can have chips sometimes, right? You can have cake at your birthday or someone else's birthday, right? That's going to be a couple of times per year. So at this point, this is kind of your main diet, right? But you can have that flexibility, and you could add some other foods. You could have a split, 80% healthy foods, 20% unhealthy foods, right? So this is basically the stage that I'm at. So unless I have 0 time to cook, then this is basically, or worst case scenario, some high quality meat and food like lamb and rice at Osmos, or I can ask them to just take out the rice and only lamb. That's actually pretty good quality as well. But I wouldn't consider myself at stage 5 yet, which is just making that the only part of your diet. So Paul Saladino, Anthony Chaffee, Sean Baker, even the Liver King, right? They're all part of stage 5. I guess Liver King, he has steroids and stuff like that. So these are the most nutritious foods possible, right? And that's the main part of your diet. So you don't need anything else, right? That you can just thrive with that. And I really don't have much to say about it because it's just so simple. Just eat single ingredient foods that are the best for you, and for most people it's eggs, meat, dairy, and honey. Some people, they can eat white rice or brown rice and they're fine. Some people, they can eat potatoes and they're fine, but just keep it simple, keep it to those 4 ingredients and then expand later on. But yeah, that's basically it. So if you're looking to lose weight or looking to get some help to get to stage 4, I have a link in the description. This is a completely free call with me, 30 minutes, and I'll basically help you as much as I can for free. And I don't really have anything to sell you at that point, but if you're interested, then we can hop on that call and I'll teach you exactly the steps to get to stage 4 as quick as possible. Let's say you're stuck at something, like you can't figure out how to cut out seed oils because your parents keep on buying you this food and you can't find any sort of like alternative, then I'll teach you how to deal with something like that. So yeah, just click on that link in the description and remember, this is what hard feels like.